Hello everyone, GoldenNova here. Power of the Elements introduced a lot of different archetypes and support for them. We have things for crawlers, we have things for other different decks, but what I didn't expect, what I never expected in 1,000 years, was to see support for Mokey Mokey. Now, is it deserved? Well, of course it is. Mokey Mokey's iconic. They've made appearances in several cards from throughout Yu-Gi-Oh's history, is the boss monster of one of the chillest characters in all of GX, and like, look at him. Look at this strange, rectangular, mochi cube that we all know and love. So, I'm going to take the Mokey Mokey cards that we've seen, I'm going to throw in all the ones that are in the artwork, and we're just going to talk about all of them as if they're some kind of gigantic archetype until Konami finally follows through with the update they gave in this set and gives us the entire Mokey Mokey line. So let's get into it and explain Mokey Mokey. So what's the deal with Mokey Mokey? Well, they're a level 1 light fairy normal monster with 300 attack and 100 defense. They're an outcast angel. Nobody knows what he's thinking at all. Sometimes he gets mad, and that is dreadful. Which you wouldn't expect from this guy, right? But that's where Mokey Mokey Smackdown comes in. It's a continuous spell that if a face-up fairy monster you control is destroyed while you control Mokey Mokey, until the end of this turn, the attack of each Mokey Mokey you control becomes 3,000. That's right, a level 1 normal monster, a crossroads of stats that have a lot of different support, can put a monster on board that can deal 3,000 points of damage, contesting the likes of Borreload Savage Dragon. That doesn't make sense. Borreload Savage Dragon gains a bonus. An unboosted Borreload Savage Dragon, or any other battle-destroyable 3,000 attack body. So that's the game plan, right? You summon a different fairy, have it get destroyed, and then all of your Mokey Mokeys gain 3,000 attack and you push for game. What's the fairy that you use for that? Which one is optimal? Well, that mission goes to King Mokey Mokey, a level 6 fairy fusion monster with 300 attack and 100 defense, requiring 3 copies of Mokey Mokey as material. When this card is removed from the field, you can special summon as many Mokey Mokeys as possible from your grave. So, the idea is that with Mokey Mokey Smackdown on the board, you fusion summon Mokey Mokey King. With its low stats, you crash it into another monster, summoning 3 Mokey Mokeys, each one now benefiting from beatdown. But in Yu-Gi-Oh, the maximum number of a card you can run in your deck is 3. The issue is also that you can't use a fusion substitute to help make Mokey Mokey King, because A, that means you still need 2 other Mokey Mokeys, and B, that means you're missing out on Prime Mokey Mokey Revival. Well, that's where the new support comes in, Stray Mokey Mokey. While this card is on the field or in the grave, its name becomes Mokey Mokey and is also treated as a normal monster. So it's kind of like what Gemini's should have been. You can discard this card to add a Mokey Mokey card from your deck to your hand. So it puts a Mokey from your deck into your hand, it puts a Mokey into your grave, and get this, Mokey Mokey King does not say special summon 3 Mokey Mokeys, it says special summon as many as possible. So the more strays you have in grave, the more you can summon off of its effect, and therefore get the boost from Smackdown. This means you can have a field of, what is that, 1,500 attack points worth of damage? That means your opponent's going to have, what, 7,000 attack worth of defenders to block all of that? Doesn't seem very likely. Space Heater needs to shut up. Now, if you're just looking through a database, that might be the end of this archetype. These are the only cards with Mokey Mokey printed on them, but we're going one step beyond. We're going to cover everything that has Mokey Mokey on it because you cannot deny them their place in this game's history, and I will not be a party to that kind of suppression. Starting off with a Rush Duel card is 1-Up, a normal trap, which is... How do I talk about a Rush Duel card? I don't have a format for this. Anyway, 1-Up is a normal trap card that when a monster on your field is destroyed by an opponent's attack or card effect, you can special summon a level 1 normal monster from your grave face up to your field. I'm not sure how this impacts the meta in Rush Duels. You need to specifically have a level 1 normal monster, and while normal monsters in general are a lot more prevalent because the normal summon isn't quite as important, I figured there's other better ways. Rush Duel people, burn me in the comments below. Let me know how I'm completely wrong about the effectiveness of 1-Up. A Major Upset is a normal trap that tributes a face-up attack position level 2 or lower monster you control to return all level 7 or higher special summon monsters to the hand. Seems weird that you would put it in the art and not make it restricted to level 1 monsters because, you know, he's level 1, and I hazard to see how you would... I imagine if you were a budget duelist back in the day and you too were faced with Dark Armed Dragon clawing its way to victory, you'd want some kind of answer to remove it. But, you know, I'm pretty sure that Dark Armed Dragon decks were a lot more resilient than to just deal with a random bounce effect that only worked on higher level monsters, and considering the advent of Xyz and Link monsters, this effect has not aged well, much to the upsetness of the older crowd. DD Reroll is a continuous trap that keeps your Dark Contract cards you control from being destroyed by your opponent's card effects. You can banish this card from your grave, then target up to 3 of your other banished DD cards and shuffle them into the deck. How does this work with Mokey Mokey? No clue, but there they are in the background, completely drowning in what looks like a map or something. This is the strangest D&D campaign I've ever seen. What are they doing over there? What's that gold Minotaur guy doing? Why'd you put Mokey Mokey in there? Going through, doing this. Talking about Mokey Mokey. DD Trap Hole, not to be confused with DD, remember, is a normal trap that when your opponent sets exactly 1 monster and no others, you target that set monster and 1 monster you control, destroy those targets, and if you do, banish them. When Bottomless Trap Hole is too powerful, you print this thing. It also shows that Mokey Mokey is, even without being enraged, a cold-blooded killer and cannot be trusted. Dark Factory of Mass Production is a normal spell that targets 2 normal monsters in your grave and adds them to your hand. The implications of this card are frightening. Not only is the Goblin from Upstart Goblin continuing their deserved punishment of being a capitalist, it also shows that the Mokey Mokey are being made en masse in a dark factory. Now, we don't know, or at least at time of recording, I don't know where this factory is being set, but considering the skull aesthetic everywhere, it's gotta be at least Dark World adjacent, and if they're making Mokey Mokeys there, I have to question its fairy typing. Dark Factory of More Production is a continuous trap that has you sending a monster from your hand or field to the grave to draw a card, and you can only use this effect of Dark Factory of More Production once per turn. Yeah, not much to add here. It's turning those Mokey Mokeys into... What's going on in there? We know that it triggers whenever a fairy is destroyed. What are they seeing in there? I demand an investigation. Floodgate Trap Hole is a normal trap card that activates when your opponent summons any number of monsters, and you change those monsters to face-down defense position, and monsters changed to face-down defense position by this effect cannot change their battle position. This is an outrageously powerful card in a number of formats. Speed duels, Duel Links, even in regular old duels, it's an effective way to turn off a monster that isn't a Link monster. Why is this the second Trap Hole card that Mokey Mokey has thrown some kind of innocent goblin creature into? I'm starting to think that they're in league with big trap tricks. Human Wave Tactics is a continuous trap card, and during the end phase of each turn, select a number of level 2 or lower normal monsters from your deck equal to the number of level 2 or lower normal monsters destroyed as a result of battle during this turn, and special summon them to your field. Then the deck is shuffled. Gotta love old card text having to specify that part. This can help keep the Mokey Mokeys flowing if you only have 1 and are looking to conga line them out of your deck 1 by 1. Though, my question is, what's the human part of Human Wave Tactics? Are Mokey Mokey made of people? Surprise Chain is a quick play spell that you can activate only as Chainlink 2 or higher, applying the following effects depending on the Chainlink number of this card in sequence, skipping over any that don't apply. And much like the old chain cards back from, I don't know, Cyberdark Impact or something, you can't activate this card if multiple cards or effects with the same name are in that chain. If it's at 2 or higher, you excavate the top cards of your deck, equal to the chain link of this card, and place them on the top of your deck in any order. At 3 or higher, you send the top card of your deck to the grave, and at 4 or higher, you draw a card. So at sufficiently high chain links, you can reorder the top cards of your deck to stack one on top that you want to mill, and then one under that you want to draw. If you're a deck that finds itself chain blocking fairly often, you can actually get to the 3 level of this card relatively easily. But, you know, this is what happens when you don't check your supply chain. You get surprise chained. Symbols of Duty is an equip spell that has you sending a normal monster you control to the grave, then targeting a monster in either player's grave and special summoning it, and if you do, equip it to this card. When this card leaves the field, destroy the equipped monster. Generally a good way to trade your normal monsters in for more powerful ones. Its wording here is actually very clever. It has to send the normal monster to the grave, so you can't just generate a ton of tokens and then trade those out using Symbols of Duty. And behind all of that sand and grime, you can see Mokey Mokey's dog tag. What is going on? What strange storied history of bloodshed and war is this mochi creature gone through? The Law of the Normal is a normal spell card that you can only activate if you control 5 face-up level 2 or lower normal monsters. Both players discard all cards in their hand and destroy all cards on the field except level 2 or lower monsters. Well, I guess here's that warfare part of him. Mokey Mokey is part of a charge to show those level 3 and higher monsters what for. And if you can't have a hand of cards, then neither can we. Though, don't tell them about what's going on with Dual Avatar. They might be upset that they've been power crept. The League of Uniform Nomenclature is a normal trap that has you selecting a face-up level 2 or lower normal monster you control on activation. When it resolves, you special summon as many cards as possible from your deck with the same name as the selected monster. I guess this is a great way to get all the material for Mokey Mokey King on the field as soon as possible to get right to the Mokey Mokey Smackdown effect, but I never wanted to see Ojamas this close. I don't think anyone wanted to see Ojamas this close. The Return to the Normal is a normal trap card that activates when exactly one monster is normal or special summoned face up, except during the damage step, and on resolution, destroys all monsters on the field with less attack than that monster, and you can only activate one The Return to the Normal per turn. Well, I guess the revolution couldn't last forever. I guess what's weird about this is that it doesn't require you to have a normal monster at all to make this effect work. You just summon a big monster and blast everything else, which would end up destroying all the monsters shown on this artwork. You know what? Never mind. This card is a flavor win. The Treaty of Uniform Nomenclature is a normal trap card that you can activate if you control 2 or more face-up monsters with the same name, except tokens. Apply this effect depending on how many you control. If it's exactly 2, you destroy 1 spell or trap card your opponent controls, and if it's exactly 3, destroy all spells and traps your opponent controls. So, you kinda want to line this up with League of Uniform Nomenclature. Activate that, get 3 of your monsters on board, and then you just blast your opponent. Though, it doesn't say you have to have normal monsters for this, so I guess if you're any deck that likes summoning the same monster multiple times, like Cyber Dragon or Harpy Ladies, you could find a way to make this work. Though it does seem kind of unfair that the Ojama Yellows are acting all high and mighty for making their treaty, while the Mokey Mokeys are still struggling. I mean, if nothing else, the Ojamas actually have opposable thumbs. Feels like a bit of a handicap. Trick Buster is a quick play spell, and when the monster you've targeted for battle is switched, destroy one of your opponent's monsters. That's right, you thought we were only going to be covering Rush Duel cards that had Mokey Mokey on it? You better get out of here. I'm not gonna cage my expectations of what to do. This is Mokey Mokey here. They deserve more, despite their bloodthirst, despite their horrifying trap hole laden evil, despite the fact that they served in some kind of war. Why are you making a card that's specifically made for when attack targeting is switching? That is, I mean, I guess it's Curry Bobble, so, like, that triggers it by itself, but, like, I'm not asking why a duelist would care about that. I'm asking why Mokey Mokey would care about that. What about them says that they'll take the time and the effort and the energy to invest in something like this? I am at a loss for words. The Revenge of the Normal is a normal trap card that special summons level 4 or lower monsters from your hand up to the number of monsters your opponent controls, and you can only activate one of this card per turn. This is actually kind of cool. I don't have the entire breadth of the game in my mind at any given moment, despite what I might make you think with my large breadth of knowledge, but something like Magical Musket might enjoy this card. If your opponent swarms the field, you get all of your Magical Muskets onto the board that you have stuck in your hand, and if you have this in the column as one that's already on the board, then you get an effect out of it. I know I'm reaching here, but they're trying their best. Look, Mokey Mokey got themselves all enraged just for this. Can't you just give them something? Peeking Goblin is a normal spell that has your opponent revealing the top 3 cards of their deck. You choose one to place on the bottom of the deck, and place the other 2 on top of your deck in any order. This is not the best card. I'd go so far as to say it's bad. While you might be able to hit a card off the top 3 that would be absolutely devastating for your game plan, while rearranging the top 2 in a way that makes them minimally effective, most decks are good with just a single card. Maybe you'll force them into a you drew Nibiru as the 6th card for turn situation, but taking a -1 off that doesn't seem very good. Now, you can see the tiny Mokey Mokey antenna right there, and since the Goblin is breaking into a vault, I can only imagine that they somehow took one of the Mokey Mokey components from the dark factory they work in and use it as some kind of advanced safe cracking tool. What are those things made of? Alright, that's all the Mokey Mokey cards, but what do we do with them? Well, most of them are completely disjointed, which makes sense because they're not Mokey Mokey cards. But if you want a card that's kind of fun to work with them, go ahead and run Tri-White. If you get them all into the graveyard, you can special summon all of them. And all your stray Mokey Mokeys will count for that as well, so you can pitch them out of your hand for their effect, get regular Mokey Mokey, and then you can start Tri-Whiting into Link monsters all the live long day. Mokey Mokey is a sussy marshmallow indeed. Now, the biggest hurdle to getting Mokey Mokey King onto the board is actually summoning all the material in the first place. We don't exactly have a Shaddoll fusion or a branded fusion to make this work, so instead, we're going to want to try and special summon them out of the deck as quickly as possible. And since Mokey Mokey King is specifically named, we can run Fusion Dispatch. You could also run Fusion Conscription as extra copies of it that doesn't summon the monster to the field, and you don't have to worry about not being able to use their effect because they're normal monsters. And speaking of their normalness, Unexpected Die works too. Want to try something a bit more spicy? How about trying out Ritual Sanctuary? If you have any light ritual decks you want to try out, then this makes a great addition. Mokey Mokeys are normal monsters, so advanced ritual art makes for great material, paired with things like Happy Lovers. Thank you, Old Herald decks. I hate all of you. But the best part is that its revival effect makes the Mokey Mokey summons very efficient. You can shuffle back spells from your grave into the deck to summon a light fairy in your grave whose level equals the number of cards shuffled into the deck. This can get really difficult to pull off when you start getting into the 3s and 4s ranges, but you're almost always going to have a spell card in grave which you can use to summon back your Mokey Mokeys. From that point, they're just free Link or, heaven forbid, tribute fodder for your rituals if you need that one last level. As for a silly tech pick, I recommend Diabolic King Beetle. Now you might be wondering, what set does that come in? I've certainly never heard of it. And that's because it's another Rush Duel card! You thought we were done with that? Get out of here! You can send the top card of your deck to the graveyard to have one face-up monster on your field gain attack equal to the number of level 1 monsters in your grave times 100. That's right, you can make your monster Shadow Ghoul specifically for your level 1 monsters. How do you top that? If you want something a little more TCG-oriented, Court of Justice could certainly help out. This is specifically if you're running Mokey Mokey in another fairy deck, but since they are level 1, you can Unexpected Die them onto the field, making Court of Justice active, summoning all the powerful fairies you could ever want from your hand. And that's all I have to say about Mokey Mokey. It's also all I have to say about the rest of this episode. Thank you all for donating for a good cause to get us to this video. The link for the T-Fund will be down below. Make sure you do your part to help provide financial and emotional support to those looking for abortion care, and I will see all of you sadistic fools next time I need to raise money for a cause. Here's hoping Trihorn Dragon Explained is just around the corner. Okay, and that's it for me, folks.